Hey, I have been subscribed to this guy for a while, and I watched a lot of him, I think a couple years ago, because I was a lot newer to the red pill community, and I needed to consume content and learn. And I hate to say it, but I kind of forgot, and he popped up on my home screen a couple days ago, and I just thought this video was brilliant. I don't even think I finished it all because I was like, "Ooh, I want to watch this with you guys." I just think his take on society and women and all of it, he reminds me of Kevin Samuels. He really does. I'm like, "Ooh, is this Kevin Samuels' air? We could use it." Anyway, welcome back to Far From Eden. I'm excited to watch this video with you guys. I'm excited to add my take on it, on what he has to say. Q Pill is talking about the times he's been on the Whatever podcast. And you guys know, if you don't know what the Whatever podcast is, it's like a round table, and there's a lot of, girls. Sometimes there's like 10 girls around the table. Occasionally, they've had Candace Owens on there. Brian is the host. He's had Candace Owens on there. He's had Lila Rose, the anti-schmortian lady, on there to debate. He's had Chase, I forget Chase's last name, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Andrew, that super based guy, has been on there. I can't remember his last name either, but I think he's fantastic. Um, he's had that other guy on there that has been on Pearl's show a lot. Talks about he's like an alpha man, but he's constantly cheating. Not Andrew Tate, but good lord, I can't remember that other guy's name. But anyway, so he's had some guys on there. He's had some, more conservative leaning people, some traditional people, but a lot of times the girls are basically only fools. Thank you for reminding me what Better Bachelor calls them. He has only fools girls on there, corn stars, etc. Um, and it's not adversarial usually. It's it gets old after a while. These women, like I've reacted to one of them where this one would not budge on that men are stronger than women, and that, like, you know if you needed somebody to protect you, who would you choose, a man or a woman? And she's like, I don't know. Anyway, so sometimes it's just fascinating to be like, really? Do you really think that, or are you pretending? So, but those podcasts, I mean, some of them go for like 5 hours long. Um, anyway, so Q was on there, and I just like what he had to say. So I've been babbling enough. Let's bring that in and see. Gonna start where he's talking about when the host of the Whatever podcast reached out to him and what his initial take on it was, as far as what he thought about it and the type of interaction it is. He obviously, all of us know, especially you guys know, I'm talking about like content creators, but even you guys like out in the real world, you guys know how careful you have to be um, about women's stuff before they'll call you a misogynist or accuse you of something. So it's like walking on eggshells. And I think, he was probably needed to be prepared for, like, well, what kind of things are going to be taken out of context, stuff like that. So without further ado, we are going to share the screen. I'll get faster and faster at this. Okay, here we go. Helps if you press play.
I got a DM from the Whatever Pod asking me if I wanted to be on the show. And I said yeah, but it would take some time. So Brian repeatedly reached out to me from April up to my first appearance, which was back in, I want to say, the end of September, beginning of October. That was my first appearance on the Whatever Pod. Had no idea what to expect. I usually typically don't get into those settings where we're sitting at a round table and we're debating topics, mostly because I'm a scientist and I believe in objective facts. I believe in research, data, empirical truths. And a lot of times people sit at these round tables and it's nothing but a round table full of opinions. And
Yeah. We women are a little bit allergic to facts when facts don't make us look good. I've seen them be like, I've seen them be like, yeah, but who did they ask when they took that, when they had those statistics? I'm like, they don't they don't have a clue how these things are studied, how these things are actually done. They like the facts that serve their purposes. And I think he knew, like, going in, like, you gotta be really careful. But he's really smart, so he's probably one of the best ones to go on there. You guys will see. Like, these women are like, one literally has her jaw agape
I
when he
really hate
talks to
sitting
them.
around discussing opinions. Also, you never know how people are going to react to hearing things that they don't like in person. I can handle myself. Obviously, that's not the fear at all. But sometimes it can just be uncomfortable when people don't know who you are. If you say something that's too abrasive or too insensitive, they may have an adverse reaction. And it can be unpredictable. So that also was a skepticism of mine going into it. Like I said, I had no idea what to expect. And then when I referenced the media, reading up on the whatever podcast, seeing snippets, seeing clips of the negative criticisms and what everyone in these news media outlets had to say about it being misogynistic, about it being sexist, about it uh, grabbing low hanging fruit when it comes to the women that they bring on the podcast, them only selecting OnlyFans girls and sex workers and porn stars, etc. Um, it's something that I had to take into consideration about, well, if I go on there, what is my mission? What is the objective? What am I on there to do?
That was really smart to, before he went on there, like, get everything organized and know who he was speaking to. This man, he understands. I want to say he understands women, but I don't mean it like, oh, he really gets us. I don't mean it like that. I mean, like, he's like, I get how I have to be around them. And it's like he knows how to walk through the minefield.
And am I going to be a valued voice on the podcast? So when I got out there, the experience, I have to say, it at first, I mean, I love the environment where it's located at in California. It's beautiful. It's in that Santa Barbara area, that the Pacific Coast Highway. I love being out there. I love driving up and down Malibu from LA to Santa Monica to Malibu.
Driving in
Very, very beautiful
California?
area. I say I need to get a vacation spot out there because that's how beautiful it is. I want to get a vacation home out
No,
there eventually.
no,
And whenever I want to get away, I'll just go out there and I might hop on the pod when I'm out there, just hit
no.
Brian up. But yeah, like I said, regarding
Don't go to Call Me California. Don't go. I'm afraid, like, if you go, that's when, Newsom's going to suddenly, like, trap everybody in or something. Establish checkpoints. I thought he was going to do that during COVID. I really did. That's a whole different topic, isn't it? There's a chance I might have ADHD a little bit. Maybe. It's fine.
the negative criticisms in the media that I've seen things, such as individuals like this from watching a 15-second clip have such powerful vitriol towards the whatever podcast and what it does.
Yeah.
This is why a lot of the clips from the show are popular, because it's like easy pickings. It's low hanging.
Okay. All due respect, Matt Walsh, Michael knows all these trad cons, as they're called, which you could call me that. But then I look at, like, I'm not one of these guys. These guys are like very anti red pill, very anti, I'm sure they're anti MGTOW. They're like, or men need to get married. Da, da, da. It's like, it's all well and good for you guys. And also, I'm like, how long have you been married? Clock's ticking, guys. They have no idea, and it's completely disrespectful and irresponsible for them to be, like, I hate to use the word, but shaming men for not wanting to get married in this environment. It's awful. Like, the men who enable the women to do this by not calling it out, by acting like the men have toxic masculinity because they don't want to put up with, you know, getting their children stolen from them and, you know, their lives destroyed. Like, how dare they? Like, it's awful. I get it. Like, women, yes, they're terrible, and we have done plenty. But these guys, like, come on, guys. Brotherhood. Anyways, so that's what I think about the TradCon. So, of course, they're going to be like, oh, they're picking on these women.
Eating fruit, it's like, yeah, you could sit there and you're talking to.
I just thought of something, sorry. So these women are low-hanging fruit. I mean, I agree. It's easy pickings. It is easy pickings. People do make it easy for you to, like, they're, you know, like, you're actually insulting them, dude. You are. You're probably insulting them more right now by saying that than anybody does on the Whatever podcast.
Some bimbo, you know, and it's not hard to embarrass her.
And you guys see, that was a clip from Matt Walsh of him criticizing the podcast. Now, in that clip, he was responding to something on the podcast where he actually agreed with it because it promoted the idea of keeping traditional marriage and family and gender roles going. So, of course, he was going to agree with that. But you guys hear there that he hinted at the fact that, you know, it's popular because it's low-hanging fruit. You bring on bimbos and you embarrass them. You make them look a certain way. And then there was another news outlet media guy. I don't know who this guy is, but this is what he said about the Whatever podcast.
Only thing I've seen in this Whatever podcast.
That's Pints with Aquinas. I actually follow this guy too. Catholic. I'm personally not Catholic, but I do enjoy some of the podcasts of Pints with Aquinas. I don't remember what his name actually is, but I do like him. And I do remember that in this podcast that we're watching right here, this little clip of Pints with Aquinas, he's actually talking to Lila Rose, who had been on the Whatever podcast. So he's about to give his opinion about the Whatever podcast. And you can look at his face. He looks like he ate some lemons. It looks like, I like you, dude. I like you. I don't know why you men don't get it. What is wrong with you?
It was like 20 seconds, was these guys who brought on women who didn't know what they were talking about and they made them look stupid. Because I'm pretty sure the Whatever podcast is despicable.
And you guys hear there the strong choice of words, despicable, you know. So these are people on the outside looking in who have never been on the Whatever podcast. Now me, I've been on there, as I said, I've been on there previously 5 times with them.
Not only have they never been on the Whatever podcast, they're not. I mean, that guy is a middle-aged guy who's traditional and Catholic and married. What on earth does he know about Gen Z, who's like 20 years old? These people are in denial of the moral degradation that has occurred in this country.
In the past 2.5 months, because after my first appearance, Brian really liked what he heard from me and he really enjoys my content. He watches my content as well. So that has turned out to be a very, very strong business relationship between the two of us. And as I said, the podcast isn't what people make it out to be. He's a pretty good guy in terms of how he treats the girls, the hospitality he has, the conversations we have after the show, before the show, really have no issue with him. And you can see that if he's a genuine guy and he has a certain level of integrity, that it's not his prerogative to bring these girls on and just make them look foolish. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, like I said, I've been on there a couple times. So if you guys want to see, here's a couple clips of me cooking while I was on the Whatever pod.
Because all the research indicates that there are gender differences between our sexual behavior. That's why we're sexually dimorphic. First of all, you have paternity uncertainty, which is women who sleep around. There's less likelihood of them knowing who the father of their child is. And to a man, the ultimate disrespect is him raising a child that's not his. He's investing in resources to help the next man's offspring.
Do you guys see how quiet these chicks are and how respectful they are? They're listening to him. They're not arguing with him. They usually will argue a little bit more than this. He talks about in a minute he talks about, he kind of, it showed me why. Like, because I was kind of like, why are they behaving, right? I was like, why are they behaving? But in a second, he says something that I'm like, oh, that's why. That's what I mean. Like, he understands. So I love that he's getting this message through to them. And he's actually, sounds bad, but he's using words they understand. Because I've watched this before, and I have watched other people explain things, and women just really have no idea what words mean. Oh my gosh, that scared me. My computer gave me some kind of notification, and it scared me. Okay.
That's extremely detrimental to his genetic legacy. The second thing is women, like I said, experience a lot more sexual regret. Women come with a lot more emotional baggage. They sleep with guys that rack up bodies. I don't know if you guys just seen Brittany Renner, but Brittany Renner just said she had 35 bodies. When she said she had 35 bodies, she said a lot of them, half of them were one night stands. And she said she wished they hadn't have been that way. So that tells you right there that a lot of times when women sleep with a man, they want that man to like them. They want something out of that man. So if you don't get it, you become bitter. You may regret it. It may affect you emotionally. It may damage you emotionally. That's another thing. So you can't.
Did you see those women? Everything he is saying is 100% true. There are no women that are just sleeping around because they like the sex. That's not how we're made. I know that there are young women and some middle-aged women that act like that. They act like that for the attention. They think that that's how men want them to act. It's not because they're like a cat in heat. Like, it's not that. Everything he's saying right there is so true. Women do want the guy that they're sleeping with to like them. That's an understatement. I think that's what the younger generation is kind of struggling with when they think they're going to have, or any women after sexual liberation, they think they're going to have this, amazing experience and everything. And and they have what he's saying, like emotional trauma and regret and sadness when they don't end up being with the guy. It's true. You guys know, you can see when she's a virgin, and then when she's not, but that's not necessarily the change. The switch happens when, okay, she's a virgin. Let's say she's with the guy, right, that she loses it to. Then they break up. That's when the switch happens. And they say, well, it's really like 5 guys and then she can't pair bond, or it's like 3, or it's actually more like 10, or it depends on the woman. You know what? After 1, it's not the same. It's true. It's true. Any woman who says otherwise is lying. Let's continue on.
Carry that into the next relationship that you're in. So now those guys are wondering why you are the way that you are, when in reality it's just because you don't feel valued. You don't feel validated. You gave your body to a man who didn't appreciate you, who didn't give you what you want. You knew what you wanted out of it. You didn't get it. So you feel some type of way.
I agree with you.
The next thing is
Exactly.
the orgasm gap. Men have an incentive to want to procreate because we orgasm 99% of the time when we have sex. The majority of women do not orgasm when they have sex. So what did you just do? You just wasted your time.
Did you hear that? Okay. He said the majority of women don't have the big O when they do the deed. Now, the majority of women are probably going to act like they do, but they don't. So then you would say, well, if they don't, if they're not sort of guaranteed that, or over 50% likely to have the big O, why are they so eager to have, casual sex? They're not. They want attention. They want to be validated. They have no idea that what they are craving biologically from their soul, whichever way you want to approach it, they're craving a mate to have.
Also, women describe sex is better when they like the guy. they're attracted to the guy.
Yes.
So if you sleep with a man that you don't know, you might feel some type of way, yucky, or I wish I hadn't done this. You
He's
experience
doing
sexual
great.
disgust. So there's differences.
Great.
All the research aligns with what y'all call the double standard, and that's why I say it's not a double standard. It's different standards because
They
the
all
standard
agree.
sexual
See 'em?
behaviors
Look at
y'all
'em all.
exhibit are not the same standard of sexual behaviors that men
Look
exhibit.
at them all.
So that was a clip there. You guys can see me cooking as I'm
Fantastic.
explaining the psychological and biological differences in the genders when it comes to sexual behavior and why body count matter, which is one of the more popular topics that the podcast tends to go viral for regarding body count in this era of feminism and women empowerment and sexual liberation, as we constantly promote this idea that women can do what men can do in terms of sexual behavior, and that sex is somehow, you know, a socialization phenomenon as opposed to a biological one. And as you guys see, I'm spreading knowledge on the reality of it, what the research, empirical data, and actual reality when you observe women and men and how they behave sexually, what aligns with reality. And if you ask me, that's more so what the podcast is about. It's about taking young women who have these fallacious ideas regarding gender differences, regarding male and female behavior, and simply giving them a reality check and explaining to them why those things are the way that they are, and how it's not a matter of socialization, but there's a biological and a psychological component to it that they completely disregard or are ignorant to because they didn't pay attention in science class. Or
they don't teach it in science class. They teach us women, they try to teach us the total opposite of everything, all the truth that he's teaching them now. Like, I guarantee you, those women sitting at that table had never heard someone say that stuff. Had never heard it. I think that's why they were so quiet. Some of them were casting their eyes down. They felt what he was saying. Like, you regret it. You feel yucky. You wanted something more. And they're all like, oh my gosh, you know, because it was true. Boy, I would love to go on the whatever podcast. I would be so nervous, but I would love to go on there. I would love to be, you know, obviously I'd be on the conservative side, but I want to be like, ladies, hear me now. You don't want to be in your mid-40s with no family. You don't. I know you don't get it now. Like, that's not how I would say it, but I would think, you know, about how to say it in such a way that they might hear it. But God, that would be such a great opportunity. I'd even go back to Kami, California for that. And then leave right after.
You know, they didn't major in these things in college, or when they majored in it, they didn't pay attention. They didn't do a good job of retaining the information in which they were taught and applying it to real life situations, which is what I'm doing in this situation. I'm taking what I learned, what I know to be true, and spreading that knowledge, because the objective is to teach women about the realities of dating that they clearly don't understand in this new Western dating climate. And that's the idea that Brian is trying to do. Of course, he was inspired by Fresh and Fit. He openly admits that. That's why the format is similar to Fresh and Fit. You know, the whole round table with the girls and us having conversations with girls, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But this idea that, you know, it's to just tear down women and be misogynistic. Well, the truth is, reality is misogynistic, if we being honest.
I love
because
this.
men and women are not equal. Men and women have advantages in men's favor and advantages in women's favor, and disadvantages in men's favor and disadvantages in women's favor. But we only highlight and complain about when a disadvantage in a woman's favor is highlighted. I don't understand that. And that's what we simply aim to do when we come on. But as I said, very hospitable. I enjoy being on the podcast. Brian treats me like family, you know, during the holidays like Thanksgiving, even Christmas. You know, he reached out, happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas. He communicates thoroughly, effectively. He always is very well respectful to me. He's very well respectful to the girls when he's not pushed, when he's sitting there and we're talking when the girls get.
I left this part in because I have heard too much of the, like, whatever podcast is misogynistic and it makes the girls look bad, etc. And it doesn't. In fact, sometimes I'm over here like, Brian, like, you know, like, go after it. But he actually is he's very generous to the girls on there. You know, it's when they are blatantly disrespectful, getting up, walking around, then they will get kicked off the show. But it takes quite a lot. He has taken so much disrespect from the women on the show, not that particular show clip that we were just watching necessarily, but like it's way more. You know, obviously, you guys know, like the women are, you know, bashing men way more than the other way around. So I wanted to leave this in about, you know, what Brian's really about and what the atmosphere really is and how he, you know, treats his.
He's very open.
Yes.
He's very direct. Very friendly, very inviting, very warm. A lot of the times we've even went out to eat after the podcast. Me, Brian, some of the girls. Brian will cover the bill. Like, so it's crazy to me that there's this idea that we bring on women to try to make women look stupid, when in reality, women just say a lot of stupid things on their own. When in reality, women just say a lot of stupid things on their own.
He's right.
That's the reality.
He's
We
totally
don't have
right.
to make them look stupid. And he doesn't handpick or cherry pick a certain type of woman to come on the podcast.
No, he doesn't.
Because if a woman says, you know, you guys only bring certain type of women on the podcast, you guys are just trying to pick on the bimbos, the airheads, the corn stars, the OnlyFans, 304's, Brian will literally offer them an invitation to come on the podcast at that moment when they're criticizing the podcast. Now, they can accept it or they can reject it.
Yeah.
But a lot of these women who believe that they're more equipped, more adept at being on a podcast like this and formulating good ideas and articulating their thoughts in an eloquent and intellectual manner, they have an opportunity to do that, but they reject it. So whose fault is it that the ones who actually want to come on to gain publicity and to gain exposure just happen to be the corn stars and the OnlyFans 304's because they want to promote the content that they do.
That's why
and Brian
there.
allows them to do it. There's no, I mean, that's a benefit to coming on the podcast, but to act as if these women are just selected like this is admissions for Harvard where we do affirmative action and only OnlyFans 304's and corn stars are the ones that are admitted over the qualified intellectual women.
No.
That's simply not true. That's a misconception about the podcast.
Yeah.
We can't help it if the women who come on are stupid or they say idiotic things.
Awesome.
Women say idiotic things. Women are irrational creatures.
He's right.
They're emotional.
Yes.
Women say the stupidest shit.
We really do.
Because they don't care about science.
Well,
they don't care about being objective.
Well, he's right. But I will also say, like, we do say a lot of stupid stuff. And when we're saying stupid stuff, it's usually because we're not thinking. We're just being emotional. And, you know, and that's where it happens. And he's right. We don't think about science. We don't care about science. Most of us don't even understand science or math. So
they don't care about data. They don't care about literature. And most of the women don't know it.
He's right.
So they're going to speak from bias, distorted, irrational perspectives on things that they dislike and disagree with because it's not advantageous to them.
Absolutely right.
And that's what they're going to do.
Every
and
time.
Men being the logical, objective ones, at least we're supposed to be, we're there to check them and redirect their thinking and let them know, no, this is not true. What you believe is erroneous for this reason. That's the purpose that the podcast serves. This is another example of me also.
I am a certified relationship coach. So, and I have a huge clientele. So a lot of the women who come to me, these women come to me wondering why they aren't getting the dating outcomes that they want. And a lot of times it starts with them not being objective about their mate value, physical appearance, what they bring to the table, what they have to offer, who they are. And you have to remind them that these are the things that you woke up every day and told yourself in the mirror, daily affirmations. I'm a 10, I'm this, I'm going to manifest this, I'm going to attract the energy that I put out. All of that is bullshit. All of that is bullshit because you live in a world to where someone has to pick you too. It's just not about what you believe about yourself. It's about the way the world sees you as well.
Yep.
And if you have the expectations of as a woman, I want to attract this type of guy. I think I'm on the level of this type of guy. And the reality is you're not. You're really going to end up heartbroken. I'm telling you, like, I deal with these women who are heartbroken. They're disappointed. They wanted to be wives. They wanted to be married. They wanted to have kids, not out of wedlock. They're single mothers, all types of women. They're just disappointed. They're heartbroken.
Yep.
And if you would have started being objective and being able to take some constructive criticism and being able to say, well, you know what? You're right. It took this long for me to come to the realization that I'm not the shit that I thought I was, or I hyped myself up to be, thinking that I was doing something, body positivity, or doing something for myself that was going to manifest what I wanted. I realized it didn't work like that. And now I'm here. And that's what I have to explain to them once they get there. So
it's a warning. It's the same as what Kevin Samuels was doing. I remember him talking about his mom and how his mom had been single and that she had finally gotten married and found somebody on her level. So thankfully, she wasn't old and alone. And as brash as Kevin Samuels can seem to be, and that made him controversial and people thought he was misogynistic and all the rest of it. But honestly, it's a warning. He doesn't, it's very caring and loving, actually. Because you could just say, who cares what happens to you? But you can tell that Q right here, he cares. And look at these women. Look at this freeze frame of these women. They're just like, it's pretty amazing. It's so important because he's right. They want to be wives and mothers, and they think, oh, I'll just do that later. But they won't, because they have a blown up idea of what they can, whatever kind of man they can get, especially after being only fools, and they end up alone. And there are plenty of, quote, average guys out there who are wonderful. See my video defending the incel. Look at these women. None of them are drop dead gorgeous. They're all average. Some of them below average. They've got makeup on and hair extensions and all the rest of it. And that's fine. Oops, sorry. But, it's like, don't you want to just go home and have some babies and be comfy and take care of your family and not worry about all the things you have to worry about as a single woman? And that might sound like, well, what do you mean as a single woman? We are not equipped to be just out here on our own, providing and protecting ourselves. It seems like it because we live in an industrialized first world country. But without, first responders and 911 and grocery stores and, ready-made shelters with locked doors in a society that sort of is peaceful, women can't. Females of the species are not capable of living on their own. And even though we are, the more I study this, the more I realize that instinctually we feel unsafe. And some of our crazy, erratic behavior comes from that. That is my theory. And it'll never get studied because nobody wants to, nobody wants that to be true. We're supposed to be strong and independent. We're obviously not.
You ladies are young. You don't understand it. You don't see it. But if you continue to hold a certain attitude about yourself that is not aligned with reality, reality is going to show you what the fuck is up. And when it does, it's going to punch you in the face.
Yes.
And you're going to be so much more heartbroken and wish that you had just been more realistic and maybe took advantage of some of the opportunities that were presented to you in terms of dating, in terms of relationships with guys who could have been good partners. But because you felt that you were above him when you really weren't, by whatever metric you choose to use, now you're single. You're stuck. You're single.
Yep.
And you can't get what you want because you spent all your years that you should have been investing in those guys who are on your level, trying to get something better that you weren't really qualified for.
And There you
Boom.
guys hear me breaking it down. Another teaching moment. And I understand another criticism that they give is a lot of the guys that they bring on, some of the guys seem like they get angry at the girls and they don't know how
They
to
do.
talk to them. As you can see, when and a lot of these clips and a lot of times that I've been on, the women were very respectful, very receptive to the information that I was giving them. And let's face it, a lot of the women were indeed attracted to me. I mean, I'm there, like I said, we meet before we get on camera and we go out after. A lot of these women were attracted to me. A lot of these women were interested in me romantically, sexually.
Okay, I didn't see that part before. I had thoughts. Okay. A big reason that the women were attracted to him is because he's like, this is how it is. But he's calm about it. He's not like angry. He's not coming off angry. He's just like, none of this mess is good. And at the end of the day, women are attracted to that. Think about it. He's there to tell them your lifestyle is not a good choice. And here's why. He's there to tell them that. And yet, they're attracted to him. He didn't go and say, oh, you're so beautiful and wonderful and perfect. I wish I could date somebody like you. He didn't go and say that. If he had, they wouldn't like him. This is the whole, do women like nice guys things? It's not about nice. It's about, don't fall all over yourself like you need her. You don't need her. We women need you. You don't need us. That's why I go on about the industrialized first world thing. Like it taints the truth. The female of the species needs the male for survival. The male needs the female for procreation. So those are very different needs. And when the man has that quiet confidence and is just like, I will choose what is best for me. I will choose what I think is right and wrong. I don't have to beg for your, attention. That is a reason these women were attracted to him, because it's not because he's devastatingly handsome. It's not, I'm not trying to be like rude or anything, but like physically, like it's not a whole, he's not super attractive that way. But his personality and his mindset, his intelligence, all of that, very much so. That is attractive. No, I'm not attracted to him. I'm just saying, like, women are attracted to that. So it's not about like a certain chiseled cheekbones necessarily. This kind of confidence and he seems like he's got everything under control. Women like that.
And they talk about how I deliver things, how I explain things, how I convey things.
Exactly.
And they say that, I'm one of the better individuals who comes on the podcast who knows how to deliver a message and articulate it in a way where they can digest it and they can actually enjoy digesting it. There may be guys who come on the podcast and they sound angry and they sound like they're just there to take out their anger on the women, and they can get super abrasive and insensitive and disrespectful. The reason I don't do that is because I understand, one, that women are going to mirror your energy. So if I'm cool, calm, and collected while I'm delivering a message, they're going to be more cool, calm, and collected while they're receiving the message.
He's right.
That's psychology 101. Then another
I heard him say that before, and I was like, oh, he's right. And since I am an equestrian, I'm a horse girl, I was like, dang, we are like horses. Like, you can't just come at a horse with all this energy. They feed off your energy, and they will match your energy. If you're nervous, they'll be nervous. If you're calm, they'll be calmer, So if you're angry, they'll be fearful. Like, they will match it either by opposite or by being, similar. But it's going to affect them. And when he said that about women that will match the energy, I was like, oh my God, I feel seen, but in like an exposed way. It's true. He's right. And he absolutely knew how to talk to them. He's a little cocky here, but you know, who else is going to say it? Well, I'm saying it. I'm backing it up. He's right. He's right.
The thing is, I don't really have a dog in the fight. I'm a marker for truth. I say I just deliver the messages that nature wrote. So
Yes.
unless I have a personal vendetta with any of these women, which I don't in any of these instances, there's no reason for me to get frustrated and upset and start yelling and start having this desire to just want to check them and put them in their place in an aggressive and disrespectful manner. That's not necessary. You can get through to women a lot of times just delivering shit the way that I deliver it. And as you can see, they're quiet, they're receptive,
True.
they listen. And as I said, also they're attracted to me, so that helps. I'm not going to pretend that I don't know that they're attracted to me.
Okay.
So that
Calm
definitely
down.
helps. But
Calm
I've
down.
had enough experience talking to women. You know, I'm not one of these individuals who decided I was going to level up in my 20s and turn into a guy that I've never been, who gets women now all of a sudden, or trying to get women. And now I've been getting women. I've been getting women since grade school.
Okay.
I have.
Okay. That's fine. And I'm sure he has. I'm sure he has. It has benefited him because he does know how to talk to us. And I think with the other guys, like Chase is really good. He's very calm. But I think with Chase, he probably needs to be a bit bolder. And then Andrew is super bold and comes off abrasive. But, you know, also with Andrew, he's in it to sort of have a debate. And you can't come at these women like that. You can't speak to them. You can't use words they don't know. You have to speak to them. I think one of the things that Q did, he didn't say that this part, but I think one of the things that Q did that made it so that they actually listened was he talked about their feelings. Did you guys notice that? Like a lot of times, like when Chase comes on the show and Andrew comes on the show and Brian talks, like, and even when Lila talked, Candace Owens, they're going to talk about facts and this and that. And obviously to women, it seems cold and harsh and mean. But what Q did was he started talking about, well, I'm sure, you know, when this happens, when you sleep with somebody, this is how you kind of feel. And I don't think the other people do that. They don't talk to the woman about her feelings. So, and it's interesting because he didn't go to the women and be like, oh, I'm so sorry you have sad feelings. He was like, you do this and you do this, you know, in the context like these are not good things to do. And then balances it with, and then you feel some type of way, which is a more of a, I don't know, it's a black thing to say. It's like black people, it's part of their vernacular. But it just means like you feel kind of like it's really, I don't even know if there's a translation, but it's kind of good in this setting because he's not even telling them how they feel. It's just that they don't feel great about it. And I think that was the genius of how he handled them. Was he said facts, but he spoke woman language to them, if that makes any sense at all. And I'm really glad that he made this video talking about what the Whatever podcast is about. Because how else are we going to educate some of these women? And I don't think we can turn it around. Like I said, in almost every video, I'm like, we're headed for disaster. It's all going to burn down. I mean, I think it is. I don't think we can turn it around, but it doesn't mean that one person can't be turned around. It doesn't mean that one family can't be changed, you know? So for that, I think it's worth it. And it's always worth it to speak truth. And I just think that, you know, that was a really good video that Q made. And I'm going to pay more attention. And you guys, if you've never heard of him before, you know, please go check him out and watch some of his videos. Whenever I show a video, I don't want to just, I'm not stealing content. I want to make sure I am definitely adding something to it. And I want to sort of, it can be an advertisement for that channel too, because he obviously has a lot of things to say. And as a man, he understands things and says things that I can't. So I'm going to definitely be paying more attention. And especially when he's on the Whatever podcast, I'm going to make sure to watch those. Man, he's so good with them. And it's satisfying. Like, I get this satisfaction from those women being told the truth. It's just like oddly satisfying to me. It's like, especially when someone's there, it says what I would say. But thanks for hanging out with me and watching that with me. Please hit like. It helps the algorithm. And pretty soon, I think I'm about 200 watch hours away from YouTube. It's like the next level of monetization, where YouTube will run commercials. So it won't just be super chats and super stickers and stuff, which thank you guys for your generosity. I've had a few so far, and there's a gentleman from Australia. It's not Jeff, it's the other one. I know there's more of you from Australia, but there's 2 of you I remember in the comments, and I thank you for your generous super sticker. It's still, this is so surreal. It's like it's not happening to me. I think this is us. This is happening to us. You guys are in it with me. I'm not doing this by myself. And so anyway, it's 200 watch hours away from where YouTube will like run commercials, and then I get some change from that. And honestly, like, you know, I never would have thought, like, with the MS and being, disabled, not being able to work. I mean, there's a lot of, it's not just like, oh, I don't walk well. There are reasons why I cannot hold down a job. And it's funny. It's like, wow, I'm gonna make some change, make some dollars doing YouTube. I never would have thought, but I didn't start it for that reason. I want to share this message. I want to help people if I can. And I'll just keep doing it until I'm not needed. But again, thanks for hanging out and watching that with me. And I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.